In eastern Turkey, in the region of Konya, there is an ancient pool or pond called Eflatun Pinar. The name means Plato's spring or Plato's fountain, Plato's pond. It is in a lonely spot in the countryside, isn't well known to tourists, and has never been subject to a proper archaeological investigation. The large square pond at the site, defined by stone walls, has been expanded from natural features and is fed by a natural spring. The spring is one of the water features of the Anatolian plain, and in ancient times it has been expanded and developed. Also from ancient times are the large block sculptures set on the bank of the pond as the central feature. This is identified as Hittite, and from other Hittite sites in the region, we can date the sculpture and the pool to about 1300 BC. The sculpture has been prominent in the landscape for over 3,000 years. It is in remarkably good condition. The pool has remained functional, a functional fountain system over 3,000 years old. Hittite civilization ruled Anatolia in ancient times, contemporaneous with the Egyptians. This particular Hittite monument dates to around the same time as Tutankhamun. Hittite culture remains relatively unknown to us. They were Indo-European people with a unique religion. They are mentioned in passing in the Bible on a few occasions, but we now know they were a formidable power in the ancient Near East, who ruled Anatolia and expanded from time to time into Syria and Mesopotamia. The main archaeological remains of Hittite civilization are at Hattusa in north-central Turkey, a significant archaeological site. The monument at Eflatun Pinar is valuable as an intact structure typical of Hittite veneration of waterholes and springs and their known preference for open-air temples. When European travellers and explorers first visited the site in the 19th century, however, they were surprised to find that the local people in Ottoman Turkey believed the pool and the monument were built by Plato, the ancient Greek philosopher. Indeed, this was part of a wider pattern of legends throughout the region and in the nearby city of Konya concerning Plato. In Konya, there was a tomb revered as that of Plato's, and there were stories that Plato had once saved the land from a great flood, forcing the waters underground and raising the land and crafting the subterranean rivers, springs, and waterways. There was no knowledge of the Hittites in these reports. Instead, the Hittite ruins were ascribed to Plato, understood here as the divine philosopher. He had saved the land from the flood and built Eflatun Pinar when he tamed the waters. Unaccountably, the name of Plato had been inscribed onto the landscape, and the ancient Hittite ruins were believed to be his work. How this came about is a mystery. The legends of Plato seem to arrive with the Seljuk Turks in the medieval period, and they seem to be connected, strangely, with the origins of the so-called whirling dervishes, centred in Konya. The whirling dance of the Mevlevi Sufis of this region is of course very famous. It dates from around the mid-1200s, the same time as the legends of Plato began, and a tomb in an old church converted into a mosque was identified as that of the great philosopher. The Orientalist traveller Haslak, who visited the region before the church and tomb were destroyed in the 1920s, surmised that the local veneration of Plato had been part of what he described as an ambiguous cult shared by both Christians and Muslims. He suspected it was somehow the outcome of compromises between Christian and Muslim communities. But what exactly had happened was hard to say. A key to this mystery, though, is to be found at Eflatun Pinar, Plato's spring. The question is, how is this site connected to the strange stories about Plato found in this region that seem somehow connected to the whirling dervishes? Here I want to propose a solution to this mystery. We find the solution at the ancient Hittite monument. Hittite religion and mythology is itself mysterious, and interpreting Hittite iconography is always speculative. But there is an agreed reading of the relief sculptures at Plato's spring. It is not difficult to interpret in a general way. It is agreed that the sculpture found at Eflatun Pinar is a depiction of the Hittite cosmology. In fact, the overall structure is best described as a cosmogram. It shows a picture of the cosmos. At the bottom is Earth, at the top the heavens, with gods and spirits in between. We recognize the arrangement from other Hittite works. At the bottom are five so-called mountain gods. At the top is the winged solar disk, the heavens. Figures on the sides support the heavens like pillars, and in the middle are two deities identified as the storm god and his female consort. There are no inscriptions, and while specific identifications are hard to establish, the general meaning of the design is clear from everything we know about Hittite myth and religion. The Hittite system was strikingly cosmological and featured weather gods. They regarded water as sacred. The monument at Eflatun Pinar is a straightforward representation of the Hittite cosmology. And not just the monument, but the whole site, the 4-square pool, has a cosmological symbolism that is very elemental. Here is the basis for attaching the name of Plato to it, because Plato, the divine Plato by reputation, was the great cosmologist. Plato had learned the secrets of the cosmos, the heavens and the earth, and everything in between. If there was an ancient monument depicting the cosmos, then it must have been made by Plato in ancient times, because it was Plato who knew the secrets of the cosmos. This seems to be what has happened. This is why it is Plato's pool or Plato's spring. When we go there and we ask, what here would lead people to attach Plato's name to this place? The answer is the Hittite monument, the Hittite cosmogram. It depicts the cosmos, and Plato was the great ancient cosmologist. Who else would make such a cosmogram than Plato? We find Plato's cosmology in the dialogue called the Timaeus. There Plato describes the creation and structure of the cosmos along with the motions of the heavenly bodies. The Timaeus is one of the most deeply influential works of ancient Greek science. So it seems that someone in the era of the Seljuk Turks has understood the Hittite monument at Eflatun Pinar to be a depiction of the cosmos. They have understood that it is a cosmogram. To explain it, they've attributed it to Plato. There is a connection to the whirling dervishes too. Turkish scholars have pointed out that the figures holding the heavens in this iconography are the same as the Mevlevi dervishes. The skirt worn here is typical of certain Hittite figures and persists in the belling skirt of the whirling dervish. This is quite remarkable in itself. Here we have a medieval Islamic ritual connected to a monument constructed in 1300 BC. It is generally agreed that the whirling dance of the dervishes is cosmological too. It mimics the circular motions of the planets and heavenly bodies. Indeed, the astrological symbolism of the ritual is rooted in the Platonic cosmology. It is as though the monument is like an ancient seed planted in the landscape, and the legends of Plato and the dance of the dervishes have been extracted from it. Exactly how this occurred is impossible to say. The actual processes have been written over with pious legitimation narratives. Somebody has understood the iconography of this monument as depicting the cosmology of Plato. They have recognized it and read it as a Platonic cosmogram. And the Samar, the ritual of the dervishes, is a development of this same cosmology in dance. If we are looking for the origins of the whirling dance, it is here. We can see it in the iconography of this Hittite monument. The medieval Turks knew nothing of the Hittites. To read this iconography, they invoked Plato. There is a fascinating interaction between this ancient monument and the medieval religious community. This is what makes Eflatun Pinar, Plato's spring, of outstanding interest. Its significance is hardly suspected though. Of recent times it has been cleaned up by the Turkish authorities, but it's largely neglected. Because it is well preserved, the archaeology would seem to be uncomplicated. although it is known that local people have moved stone sculptures from the site to other places. There is debate about what the original Hittite arrangement was like. The cosmogram is intact in any case, and that is what the Turks would have encountered when they conquered these parts of the Byzantine Empire. A better understanding of the Hittite symbolism and cosmological system would be good, but it's not essential for our purposes. It's more important to see why the monument and the spring has been attributed to Plato, and to have an understanding of how this cosmogram was understood as Platonic. Although it is possible that perhaps there are deeper and more ancient connections that a more thorough investigation into this site might reveal. How ancient is the dance, for instance? Is it the creation of the medieval period, or was it perhaps a revival of far more ancient traditions?